My name is Albertus Bagus Laksana SJ, and I teach theology at the University of Sanata Dharma here in the city of Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Fratelli Tutti is a remarkable document addressing one of the most pressing issues of our time. The Pope offers a theological ethics that touches on the fundamental truth of our existence and unites us on that level, as well as further motivates us to work together as world citizens. My comments will focus mainly on Chapter 6, Dialogue and Friendship in Society, which I find to be rich. It starts with the questions of social dialogue, where citizens converse, recognizing and overcoming differences, and then are united for the common good based on deep respect for others. In the context of his argument on social dialogue, Pope Francis is adamant on the possibility of reaching consensus on truths based on universal reason, especially with regard to the dignity of the human persons. The Pope also emphasizes the necessity of creating a culture of encounter and dialogue, saying that personal and communal encounters should evolve into a distinct culture. Pope Francis reminds us of the joy that comes when we respect others, and this experience should not stop here, but lead to the creation of social covenant, where no one is despised. The chapter closes with some notes on kindness and the need to recover this virtue as it is fading away, especially in consumerist culture and in times of crisis like ours today. Kindness starts from simple and daily gestures of gentle love and attention to others, but it should also morph into a culture that transforms relationship. One of the most crucial insights of Fratelli Tutti, and particularly in Chapter 6, is on the dynamics of culture, in which the personal and the cultural go hand in hand, where personal experience should lead to creation of culture, where the particularities of local culture should be combined with more universal values. In view of the corresponding realities in Asia, I offer 3 points of responses. The first is on the quiet power of this culture of dialogue, which Pope Francis mentions but doesn't really emphasize. The second point is on the role of solitude in building through dialogue. And the third is on the crucial role of hope. My first point is on the quiet power of dialogue. In a world where speed and efficiency are the norms of the day, we are being reminded of the role of patience and slower motion. Dialogue, for the most part and throughout history, has worked in this dynamic of patience and slower motion. Our world has developed, in fact, from creative encounters with different cultures and religions that belong to diverse nations, empires, and a host of evolving polities. Asia is formed by this same dynamic for millennia in long, arduous, and complex processes, where fruitful and friendly dialogues were oftentimes mingled with rivalries and enmities, where true pioneers of dialogue are also susceptible to the limited worldviews they inherited from their own cultures and religions, where harbingers of new social and cultural experiments were still far from being perfect, yet creative enough to get the next process going. It is in this longer historical continuum and process of cultural and social dialogue that I want to situate Pope Francis's insistence on the quiet power of dialogue. Seen in this framework, patient dialogue works indeed quietly in transforming the world. Oftentimes, what we see on the surface and the things that make headlines are noises, cacophonies, conflicting ideas, and dramatic twists and turns of history. At times, those who work for dialogue might experience a dialogue fatigue, sensing that their hard work brings no tangible fruits and instead seeing a lot of setbacks. We see bloody conflicts in the name of religion, discriminations of various kinds on minorities, distortions and caricatures of other religions, meaningless theological contentions and controversies, and so forth. The politicization of religion and identity politics seems to get more rampant in Asia, including among young people, even university students. In some places, religious segregations and discrimination have not abated, becoming even more serious during the pandemic. This long pandemic has made us realize that the world at large is not coming together as a more united anytime soon. Against this bleak backdrop, the message of Pope Francis in Fratelli Tutti is particularly crucial. Do not lose sight of the quiet power of dialogue in bringing the hearts of people together. The change of hearts indeed takes place in a quiet and simple manner, in ways that did not make headlines, and in a long historical process. In the city of Yogyakarta, Indonesia, where I live, a group of young people from across religious boundaries comes together every week to deliver free meals to urban poor before and during the pandemic. This act might be simple and does not change realities that much and that soon. Yet precisely in its simplicity, it shows how solidarity and social friendship develops rather quietly in spaces created by ordinary persons. We should also recall the quiet work of many young people who have the audacity to cross cultural and economic boundaries to serve local communities, at times in remote areas. Volunteerism is still visible in many different parts of the world, including in Asia, among young people. We also continue to witness the generosity of religious sisters, brothers, and priests who would spend many good years in other countries or cultural settings within Asia. Young people in Asia often come together, communicating in different networks and responding to the crucial challenges of our time, such as climate change and political crisis. We also witness a new and interesting phenomenon, namely volunteer tourism among young people in Asia, where young people volunteer their labor for noble causes in an organized kind of way. On the level of religious movements, there are reasons to hope for a slow and yet real transformation. In contemporary Indonesia, for example, we have been witnessing the rise of the movement of Islam Cinta, or Islam of love, which is based on the Islamic theology of love and the fundamental understanding of God as all-merciful and loving. This message resonates strongly, of course, with Pope Francis's message that God is merciful, a theological notion which energizes his pontificate and serves as a foundation for Fratelli Tutti as well. In a country like Indonesia, religious transformation happens in a long process and in a space opened up and sustained by the legacy of great religious leaders as well as various religious organizations. These are organizations that put forward Islam as the universal grace of salvation and cultivate a communion of spirituality with God's creation and are ready to work for universal brotherhood. My second point is on the importance of the dialogue of solitude. For dialogue oftentimes has become too logocentric, relying on words and concepts and discursive reasoning to solve theological riddles. Pope Francis reminds us of the meaning of dialogue. And I quote, approaching, speaking, listening, looking at, coming to know and understand one another, and to find common ground. All these things are summed up in the one word dialogue. End quote. Fratelli Tutti, number 198. So we need another type of dialogue that does not rely solely on either words, concepts, or even actions. In particular, we need a dialogue of and through silence or solitude, which is a particular wisdom that various religious traditions of Asia and culture can offer. Solitude is a moment of deep opening of the hearts to others and otherness, to the cosmos, to all realities that surround us. To be truly transforming, all other forms of dialogue need to be grounded on this foundation of deeper communion. In this regard, many holy sites and sacred spaces in Asia, including those in urban settings, have been serving as spots of quiet, as a space of deep encounters with the divine, where people find peace and balance of life. The need for this quietness and balance is manifested as well in the popularity of yoga and other mindfulness practices in our contemporary world, which in turn needs to be part of this deeper cultivation of authentic self and expansion of this self into wider solidarity. Along this line, Pope Francis talks about the phenomenon of media noises, which is so true in our lives today. They are noises because they distract us moment by moment. Sadly, religion has become part of this media noise. In a pluralistic society like Indonesia and other Asian countries, religion often enters the public sphere through noises, not through constructive dialogue for the common good, nor through mature democratic processes either. On the level of discourse, a real and robust public theology is still lacking. It is ironic that in our democratic society, religious and other concerns sometimes can only be heard through noises, through mass rallies that are not seeking consensus but rather threats and divisions. Religious leaders often play a role here, fomenting divisions by giving out controversial statements that only lead to commotions. The culture of noise in our digital age goes hand in hand with identity politics that often involves religion. This absence of solitude is disturbing, not only because of noise in the public sphere that involves religion, but there is an alarming phenomenon where people are fleeing from reality, turning completely to self that is unfortunately empty. Of course, this is not true solitude, but mere harmful isolation. In Asia, to give a well-known example, we witness the phenomenon of social withdrawal among young people. The extreme one in Japan is known as hikikomori, which is an acute social withdrawal, a total withdrawal from society. These are people who feel forced to take a role in society but cannot find one that is fitting. Some have been abused in school and family. They have lost their trust in society, where they find no worthy love. Too strict schooling and parenting, plus economic hardship, have made many young people frustrated. An acute sense of loneliness can result from the fact that one finds nothing in his self, when there is no deep rootedness in the self. Loneliness occurs when the self fails to serve as a place of dignity and hospitality. And this is one of the roots of violence. People need love and acceptance. However, Fratelli Tutti is also insistent that this affection, love, and compassion need to happen on the social scale. This is crucial in view of the relationship between individual isolation and political totalitarianism and violence, as the philosopher Hannah Arendt has argued. As we observe, political populism that often goes with religious fundamentalism is gaining favor now in many parts of the world, and this might signal a seed of new forms of totalitarian global politics. There might be a connection here between political populism and the pandemic of existential and social loneliness. Many forms of isolation in fact occur on social and political scale, where in different ways communities withdraw to themselves. This might result from intense and long-term discrimination and injustice, or the incapacity of states to unite their citizens. Many ethnic groups feel isolated from the larger fabric of a society or nation state. Among these groups, there is an overwhelming sense of being abandoned. A number of them find themselves increasingly uneasy with the existing political frameworks that have failed to give them a fuller sense of citizenship, which includes justice and dignity. In the context of Asia, we need to listen to many indigenous communities that feel oppressed by an increasingly more powerful and unjust capitalism. Against this background, we can understand why social friendship is an important category in this encyclical of Pope Francis, Fratelli Tutti. And my last point is on the crucial role of hope. As we have observed, our contemporary world is marked by complexities and challenges. Yet, we also see signs of hope on the road of building a culture of encounter and dialogue. To better navigate this tension, we need the virtue of hope, which is the art of being in touch with the longer and deeper process as well as the bigger picture. In fact, the vision of Fratelli Tutti can only be sustained by the capacity to see what lies beyond and beneath the vicissitudes of history. And this is how Pope Francis invites us. I invite everyone to renewed hope, for hope speaks to us of something deeply rooted in every human heart, independently of our circumstances and historical conditioning. Hope speaks to us of a thirst, an aspiration, a longing for a life of fulfillment, a desire to achieve great things, things that fill our heart and lift our spirit to lofty realities like truth, goodness and beauty, justice and love. Hope is both. It can look beyond personal convenience, the petty securities and compensations which limit our horizon, and it can open us up to grand ideals that make life more beautiful and worthwhile. Let us continue then to advance along the paths of hope. Thank you.